This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Hey, Alyssa, how you doing today? Good to talk with Alyssa Orange from Pigtro Nation.
How are you today?
Doing all right. Hoping the weather holds out for this weekend because the last thing we need is rain for a regional. We haven't really dealt with all that much rain now. What do you think of this regional? It's not the toughest. It's not the easiest. I lean a little toward it is a tough regional, but I don't think it's the toughest in the country.
I think it's tough. I do think it's tough, only because you look at specifically TCU, but then also Arizona, who we know have had success in the past in the postseason. But this is a TCU game that I believe has won 12 of their last 13 games. They just won the Big 12 championship tournament. They're just a hot team right now, and not that you don't want to play competition. This is the time of the year you got to beat competition to win a national title. But you're hitting a team that's hot right now, that can play really, really well. You've already matched up with them once this year, though it was a completely different team, and specifically pitching staff when you met at the beginning of the year. But you saw this Arkansas team run into a very hot NC State team a few years ago. You just don't want to see it in the way that it did in 2021.
I think we got into this a little last week, or the week before. When you look at the body of work for Arkansas athletics this year, a lot of programs they had good seasons, but for a lot of the teams that we talk about, it was just a slight step back. You go from 9 wins in football to 7 and play in a 6-6 bowl, not a New Year's Day bowl. Men's basketball, not the Elite 8, Sweet 16. It's a good year. It's a good year, but it's not the Elite 8. Women's basketball, NIT instead of the NCAA tournament. Softball, losing a home regional. We're in the Supers the year before. I just hope baseball doesn't follow that same path.
Yeah. Well, you don't want that trend to continue with baseball. And the one thing that's been a constant since I've been covering Arkansas 10 years now is that baseball has always done better than all the other sports, except for 2016. And so I'm just banking on history being the factor here, and where we know this baseball team knows how to take care of business when the lights are the brightest.
That's a good point. There is some substance there with this baseball team, and I think there's a little more fluff with that football team. They didn't earn that ranking. They were kind of given that early in the year, and then they didn't live up to it. And that basketball team, they never were consistent enough. This baseball team won the conference this year. That's something to really look at, and that's a great achievement. Alyssa, when I'm looking at the top of this lineup in the last few games of the regular season, and kind of look at who at a Josenberger, Borfrin, Wagner, and Diggs, you're going to have to get something out of your top of the lineup. Which one of those guys you think is the star and kind of helps carry us in this regional?
Well, what you need is for Borfin to get back to what we saw him during the regular season early on. I think Jared Wagner is going to continue to just get back to who he was. Tavian Josenberger, same as well, and I have no worries about Kendall Diggs at all. But it's getting Jace Borfin back again and getting that confidence built up. It seems like when he's at the plate recently, he's lost a little bit of that confidence at the plate, where earlier in the year he was hitting it like he was seeing a beach ball. So that's the guy that I want to see get back to what we saw earlier.
Yeah, you see that with him. Like, even Josenberger's battling right now. I mean, he's had some good at-bats, a lot of good at-bats. He might not have had hits in some cases, and he's had some line drives that guys have made plays on. I actually think Josenberger is fine. It's Wagner, Slavens, and Borfin. You got to get one of them going right now. And Slavens, I don't think he had a great tournament. The at-bats weren't great. Borfin the same way. Wagner's battling. Either, you know what it's like. Any one of those three guys, Alyssa, can kind of help carry a team over a weekend. We've seen all three of them have weekends like that recently. As long as one of those guys are on, I'll feel pretty good about this team's ability to put up enough runs to win a game.
Yeah, I love that you bring up Slavens because I feel like he's really never had a great SEC tournament. Obviously, last year he was hurt, didn't play. The year before, wasn't it the year before he tripped and fell over first base and hurt himself?
He slipped on a wet base, because every base in Hoover is wet anyway.
It's just never gone well for him in Hoover. And so I don't want to put a lot of stock in there, but again, he's a guy who is also swinging, and when he swings and misses, he's 2 feet away from the baseball. I would love to see Brady Slavens get back to the Brady Slavens that we were, because we know how impactful he can be. Specifically right there, kind of in the middle of the lineup. You love that spark right there around that 6-7 hole to kind of get that bottom of the lineup going and cycle back over. I would love to see Brady Slavens, if anyone in that lineup, have a good postseason. I want it to be him.
Do you get people that send, and I'm not saying this as a complaint or anything, because people they want to tell you how they're feeling about when they are trying to go to games. We get texts on our text line. I get tweets about it too. Like the all session passes they're all gone. It's all sold out. I think single game tickets are pretty tough to come by, and I mean it's the most expensive regional out there. I mean, I looked at Baton Rouge, I looked at a couple of the others, and you just expect it, and it's been like that all year. It's you get people that message you about. I never know what to tell them. It's like I'm sorry. I'm not in on the tickets. This is just because people love the team so much.
Yeah, I hate that I can't be more of an outlet for people, or some kind of source of fixing something for people, because I can't have no control over the tickets. But we get it all the time of, tickets already gone, and then they go up and they're price gouged and this and that. And I just want to go and remember the days when baseball tickets were $25. And I'm like, yeah, well, you have a really, really talented team. And so those prices are never going down. And I wish that it was a better case where we can have everyone who wants to go to this game, but it's the price you pay right now in college athletics when you have a team that's as good as Arkansas has been year in and year out. And that reminds me just of a funny story that Dave Van Horn told once, where he was just like, I got an email from a lady who was upset with tickets. He's like, ma'am, I coached the baseball team. I don't know what you want me to tell you about tickets.
That's the way I felt about it. It's like, I call the games. I don't know what to tell you, but I feel bad about it. But again, it's like when you have a program that is beloved statewide, even with a big stadium, that's what you end up getting. Alyssa, SEC meetings in Destin. Everybody wants to talk about the scheduling and the scheduling model moving forward. It's interesting to look you can tell Hunter Yurachek and Sam Pittman are in favor of an 8-game schedule, but they'll go with 9 if that's what the league wants. What it sounds more like is that now they might feel the same way you do, Matt, about like you can create divisions and therefore a league champion, and it makes more sense. But they want out of the SEC West.
They
basically said it.
Yeah, it's just a big pool, everybody, and you just kind of play who's in front of you, and then we'll count it up at the end. But they don't really care about. I don't know how they're going to, if they're just really going to keep 2 or 3 permanents, and then everything else, instead of the other way, it was you had 2 alternates in the SEC East, or you had a permanent that you would play, then you'd play your West. But I don't know how they're going to do it, but it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm interested too, because I would love the divisions to dissolve. I think that would be a lot of fun for fans and for the team. And you're going to different schools, and you're not going to South Carolina once every 12 years or something like that. You get a little bit more diversity, and then you hold strong to the rivalries that you have, even though SEC kind of forced that Missouri rivalry on Arkansas, but you can hold on to those teams that you love playing, but then you get a little bit of mixture of both, and I think it balances the league out a little bit more. Everyone has a conversation when football season starts about, Alabama's East teams are, Florida and Vanderbilt or something like that. It always feels like someone has a gripe about something, and I don't think that's ever going to go away. But the ACC has done this. They've gotten rid of divisions, and this year they're playing a full 9-game schedule, and you've got 3 rotating opponents that play each other, and then in a couple of years, that 3 opponents will change, and you'll play 3 other opponents for a couple of years that are going to be your permanent opponents, and then you move on. I think Florida State's it's like Florida State, Syracuse, Miami are the 3 little pod teams that they have. So I'm curious to see how that works for the ACC, and then if the SEC sees success there and maybe does something similar to that. Not saying that the SEC is ever going to compare themselves to the ACC, but you can look around the country and see what's working for other leagues and if it would work for yours.
But this is the one aspect that is not the scheduling model specifically is not wild, wild west, like everything else feels like in college sports. Like this conversation feels quaint compared to NIL, transfer portal, expansion of leagues, dissolution of other leagues. So it's nice to have that conversation about actual games that will be played on the field. Because when you hear all of the other stuff, like, look, Dellinger's report in Sports Illustrated has an unnamed SEC athletic director talking about NIL, and he says, quote, let's be honest, we are all money laundering, unquote. So it's nice to actually talk about scheduling in this case.
Yeah, something tangible, right? Something that you can actually hold and feel and touch, as opposed to NILs. And it's pretty wild what's going on. A couple weeks ago, the big story was, is the ACC going to dissolve because all these teams got together and figured out if they could get out of their buyout, and it realized too much TV money that they would have to repay, and so they're not. And now the ACC is quote unquote fine again, and then it's NIL and how they're going to regulate that some more. And it's always something. I looked at On3 has an NIL list that I'd never seen before, so maybe I'm a little late to the party, but I looked at their top 100. And as much as we talk about NIL, I was really surprised that there were only 2 Razorbacks in the top 100 in the country in NIL money, both on the football team. And then the other one was Ron Holland, who was undecided, but we obviously now know he's going to the G League, so he's not affiliated with Arkansas anymore. And as much as we talk about it, it's still surprising to me where all the money is truly actually going when you look at that list.
Alyssa, I do want to get your thoughts on the NBA Finals coming up. I thought Jaylen Brown cost himself a lot of money. He wanted a super max deal, and he just totally did not do it. When Tatum gets hurt, he had 8 turnovers, couldn't get it going on. But you get the Jimmy Butler Heat going against the Jokic's of Denver. Who do you got and how many games?
Yeah, I like the Heat in this game, probably just because if I had to pick any kind of affiliation as a Miami Dolphins fan, I can stay in the city, and I'll root for the Heat. I've always liked them, and they're a fun team to watch. I like Eric Spoelstra. How do you say his last name?
Eric Spoelstra.
Yeah, I like that guy a lot. I think he's been really fun to watch, and I've liked how he's been able to kind of develop Miami and the players that he's always had on the roster. I feel bad for all the Boston fans out there. Hope Wilmo Claire's not listening. I think he was in mourning for about 48 hours, but he's working today, so hopefully he's okay. But I think Miami can win it. And you said how many games? Let's see. I'm going to go Miami in 6.
I like it, and when I see Caleb Martin play a little bit, Alyssa, Coach Musselman had him at Nevada. Mm-hmm. And yep. I know he's 6-7 years removed from high school, but I translate it to I think Jordan Walsh, that's the type of player he could be in about 5 years in that league. Kind of similar type of guy. Yeah,
I think so. Maybe he'll come back for a sophomore year. And today's the day, right? They got to let us know today if he can come back. But I think you're absolutely right. Jordan Walsh has such potential. I just one more plea for him to come back for one more year. We'll see.
BetOnline.ag is your number one source for all your basketball info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest player reports for this year's pro basketball playoffs. BetOnline is always your sports information headquarters this season, as we have you covered for all your sports wagering needs. Basketball, MLB, NHL hockey, right down to UFC and boxing. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games you can play right from your home. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's BLEAV. BLEAV. Bet online, where the game starts.